Deus, Caritas est, an encyclical by Pope Benedict XVI. My thesis is that for a society to be able to persist, it must have a genuine understanding of what love is. This then poses the question of what is love? Well, love can be characterized as many different things, but I have chosen to characterize love as a light in the darkness, a choice, a sacrifice, selfless, and free. This love is called agape love. This is what God loves us with. And it is selfless because it revolves around not receiving but giving. So what is God's love? Well, God's love centers on the soul, which means that it doesn't focus on the material, but it focuses on the spiritual. And it is reassuring to a person. His love is all-encompassing, meaning that he loves everybody, whether they love him or not. And God is love. God is the perfect image of love, because God loved us so much that he was willing to send his only son to die on a cross to save us. So that brings up Jesus. So Jesus is the incarnate love of God. He brought himself to this earth as a human and was willing to die on the cross for us because that is what his Father said and told him to do. And through his death, he gave himself up for the rest of us. And that is the perfect example of what love truly is. So how can you act with love? Well, first you have to be humble, because love is humility. Jesus lowered himself to our nature, humanity, and lowered himself even further to die on a cross to save us. Also, to love God, you must love your neighbor, which means you must love all of his creation. You must love your enemies, even if you hate them, because they are God's creation, and that is what true love is. And a quote by 1 Corinthians chapter 13 says that if I give away all I have, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but do not have love, I gain nothing. This shows that you have to act, and you can't just say things, because actions speak louder than words. And if you do something without love, then you're doing it without God. And without God, then you have nothing to live for. And you have no love, because God is love. So, what is love in the world today? Well, most people would say love is just a word. It's something that I say to get what I want. I love you. You need to have sex with me. In this world, sex equals love. If you're not having sex with me, you don't love me. And social media and society and movies that we have today further the belief that love is not real. It's not meaningful. So that is the reason this encyclical is relevant today, because it shows people that love is not sex. It shows people that when you say you love something, you need to mean it. And it shows us what the greatest example and greatest act of love is, with Jesus' death on the crucifix. And love will always, always be necessary for a society to be able to thrive. In our diocese, we have a curriculum that includes stewardship, and this encyclical shows how to be a steward. You must love God's creation as God loves it. And when we studied church history last year, we learned about Pope Benedict XVI, and this is one of his writings, so we learned that. So a summary of this encyclical: we learned what love is, we learned what God's love is, we learned how Jesus Christ shows God's love for us, and we learned how to act with love. We learned how people perceive love in our culture and our society today, and how this encyclical is relevant to today's world because of how love is perceived. And we also saw how this encyclical contributed to the diocesan curriculum. And these are my sources. Deus, Caritas, Est, an encyclical by Pope Benedict XVI, and the school website, which took me to the study guide for the diocesan religion test for church history, which shows where it says that Deus, Caritas, Est is part of the curriculum, and then a lovely picture of Pope Benedict XVI.